Can I just get you guys' MVP rankings? Just your top three. Just let me get your top three right now. Don't think about it.
Okay.
Off the cuff. Go.
I'll go first only because I'll admit the past week of basketball been out of the game, but I'm gonna tell you something now. I ain't need last week to tell you that my number one is Luka Doncic. I'm unapologetic about it, and I think it's kind of rather clear unless you're really gonna go the win route. But considering this whole generation has been about the win route sometimes not mattering, I'm one of them in a situation because he's just been there the whole time. Two, I will say, hey, if we have to put some wins on that board, it's a coin flip between, for me, SGA and Jokic. I've debated that against the wall, so comment below who's your second and who's your third. But I think it's, for one, it's, I'm not some bias. I know he's the GOAT, but like for real, I think it's actually Luka. And then 2 and 3 is debatable, but literally on a game by game between SGA and Jokic.
For me, I'm gonna go Jokic number one. I think he's had the best combination of winning and statistics out of everyone. He's been the most consistent out of everyone. And then I'm gonna go. It's a toss up for me, honestly, between Luka, SGA, and Giannis. So honestly, it doesn't matter what order you want to put those three in. But right now, if I had to put a dot on it, I'm gonna go Luka, SGA, and then Giannis. Out of those four,
Giannis is a good name. I ain't mentioned this.
For me personally, I'm gonna go. Would have been Embiid, but he got hurt, so obviously,
yeah.
Luka, Jokic, and then first. Nah, I can't even say these too low. Luka and Jokic is running away from me. Running away from me. It's really those two.
You don't even think SGA is it?
Oh, and SGA. I would say SGA 3 and 4.
Okay. So I noticed a theme. Nobody said Jason Tatum.
Uh-oh. I know where this might be going, guys. Are you ready?
Yeah, nobody said Jason Tatum. And a bunch of guys have theories as to why a guy like Tatum isn't in this conversation. They might be clowns. I want to start with Draymond before we get into Jason Tatum's comments, though. Because he himself, from my understanding, said something about it. What is it? Let's start with, okay. Let's hear Draymond. Friend of the show, correspondent on the ground.
So the MVP race right now, Joker is the favorite on DraftKings. SGA, Luka, Giannis, and Tatum, the next four. You know, sometimes it's like that team is winning and that guy's the best player and playing well. Clearly, the goalpost has shifted dramatically. Because in this guy's case, he's fifth, and they got a 7.5 game lead. That goalpost is moving on JT. I don't know what JT got to do. I do know what JT got to do. I told y'all last time what JT got to do. JT will not be taken serious for the MVP until he wins a championship. And it just hasn't been that way for everybody else, I must say. It's not that way for Joker. It's not that way for Giannis. Not that way for
Embiid.
Joel. I mean, golly, that is brutal. Young fella, I don't know how the goalpost moved on you like that. But they should acknowledge it because those are the facts.
Facts over feelings.
I like it when Draymond speaks, man. Correspondent on the ground. Draymond Green. Some would say. Why did you guys skip over Jason Tatum in your MVP rankings?
Well, I'm gonna go first since this is my guy. He just hasn't had a better season than the four guys I named. It comes as simple as that. You can give Jason Tatum credit for the season he's having, for the way he's been leading this team and being the best player on the best team in the league, without involving him in the MVP discussion. I think people are not used to a guy who's led his team to the best record in the league or second best record in the league, back-to-back years putting up good numbers, yet has never won an MVP. I would like to ask chat when the last time that has happened, because I don't think it's ever happened before. But the MVP to me is always based off of an 82-game sample size. It is a regular season only award. It should not take into account any seasons prior expectations. It's just who is playing better in this 82-game season. And if you look at statistically, the four guys are putting up better numbers than him. and they're winning as well. It's not like they're losing, aside from maybe Luka, but even Luka, and the Mavs, they just came from like a 7-game winning streak that ended last night, so they're winning too. And it's really as simple as that, dog.
Yeah, for me, Tatum wasn't there because, like I said, I haven't even been up to tabs in the last week of basketball. I'm shameless and I'm in that. I'm gonna watch hella basketball this week, unfortunately, because goddamn, I need to make this up. But what I mean by that, what I bring that up to say is all season long, what I've heard about Jason Tatum in the narrative is that he's sacrificing his numbers for wins, and that's fine. He's still sacrificing his numbers, so it doesn't. I can't say because he's doing something out of good faith that he's simultaneously gonna warrant winning the award, especially when, as Bezos mentioned, you just look at the statistics. I mean, I don't hate Jason Tatum, and he's wearing fucking green. But at the end of the day, Jokic is just clearing him. So there's a minimal argument you have over a guy like Nikola Jokic, and then obviously I think Luka is just shitting on everybody, and it's a matter of wins. So at the end of the day, Tatum can be playing winning basketball, and that's fine. We've always had conversations about who the best player in the world is and how that person is an MVP. If the best player in the world or the person that's playing the most winningest basketball were to win MVP award every time, LeBron would have maybe 15. I'm like, not going, no cap. It is what it is. So at the end of the day, if even the Celtics fans, if he's making this sacrifice and playing the winningest basketball, that's fine, but it doesn't move the needle in terms of winning MVP. Now, he is in the top 5. I think that's kind of fair to say, kind of easy to say, to be honest. But as Damo alluded to earlier, that 5 spot is kind of vastly different from that 3 and maybe even 4 if you include Giannis.
Yeah.
I think for me, the only reason why I didn't include him is, I don't want to just sit here and retweet everything that y'all saying, but y'all kind of hit the nail right on the head. This team isn't winning enough for me to justify the dip in production compared to everyone else that's in the race. It's not just like, oh, Jason Tatum is on this team clearing the NBA, and these guys are just putting up great numbers, but they have no chance. No, the Celtics number 1 team in the NBA, 45 wins. There's 2 teams in the West battling for first with 40, and both of those players I had in my conversation, and one of them is vastly outproducing Jason Tatum. SGA is vastly outproducing him in terms of scoring and just other things that he's doing. So he just doesn't have the case production wise, and he doesn't have the case narrative wise, because if the narrative this year was to give it to the best player on the best team, then he's absolutely going to win. But it's just not narrative fitting this year. I think the narrative just isn't in his favor.
Let me read some stuff from Jason Tatum, and y'all may have already answered it, but I'll spin the block. Jason Tatum says, I don't have the points per game that the other 3 or 4 guys will, but I think the voters are smart enough to understand the dynamic of our team. Essentially having to do less scoring maybe on certain nights, but still impact the game in a lot of ways to kind of ensure that we win every single night. I want to play his video talking about it, because really this stems from what he feels is disrespect from voters or commentators, really, about his chances of winning the MVP and what they do consider and what they don't consider.
Yeah. There's been a lot of talk about that the last couple of days. And, those guys are putting up ridiculous numbers every night and doing a lot for their team. I have no problem with those guys being the leaders of, the MVP race. I wasn't saying that, I needed to be first. I just had a problem with, some people on TV saying that, the reason why I won't win this year is because of something that happened 2 years ago. That was my only disconnect. There's a lot of talented guys in this league right now. There's a lot of guys doing great things. I won't have the points per game that, the other 3-4 guys will. But I think, the voters are smart enough to understand the dynamic of our team. Essentially having to do less, scoring maybe on certain nights, but still impact the game in a lot of ways to, kind of ensure that we win every single night, that we're in, first place, that we're trying to be the best team, that everybody on the team feels valued, right? That it's not just about me, because I'm going to need everybody, down this stretch
Shut up.
Damn.
And the years he's talking about they mentioned him losing to Miami. They said, I don't know what Jason Tatum is going to do against like Jimmy Butler when he faces him up, which I don't think, Celtics fans are still afraid of that. They talked about Giannis as well.
I know the clip you're talking about. That's a little bit out of context.
Is it?
Yeah, because I watched it. It was after a TNT game, and it was Bob Myers talking, and he was just talking about the questions that the Celtics team has to face moving forward, and like a part of that is the questions that Jason Tatum has to answer, but that had nothing to do with the MVP conversation.
I think there was another clip though, and I'll find it. I think it's from, but nonetheless, I do think those things matter though when we talk about MVP voting and stuff. Like, people take those things into consideration. The playoff fails that you had in the previous year. I don't think it helps that he has a lot of help, and it's not a bad thing. You're in a great situation, but it just does not help that you have a lot of help. It's getting harder and harder for people like to really determine if he should be MVP or if he shouldn't be, or what those numbers look like. I should probably say. It's harder to determine.
He is right though, in the sense of like, yeah, if he was on a team with less help and had more offensive load, like his numbers probably would be higher. He was able to score 30 points a game already on a stacked team last season. Imagine with more touches, I could see him averaging the 33, 34 points per game that some of these dudes are averaging. So I see it, but just when it comes to this MVP discussion, I just don't necessarily know how he's tying that in. And I do think, while the conversation around the MVP winner now is much more nuanced than it ever has been, like it is not just winning bias, it is not just statistical bias like a decade ago. What I will say is, and I think this is like what Tatum is like showing with the statements and the conversation, is like motherfuckers are dead ass confused as to what an MVP is now, because there was precedence and it was being followed relatively consistently, but now that it isn't, it's like, all right, what are we basing this award on? But
I mean, I guess I don't agree, but I agree, but it's gonna change every single year, buddy, and it's okay to not win it every single year. I guess where I want to go now is because this is a conversation that I've been seeing on my timeline, at least in regards to this. We got to say that he's better than somebody to have him in these MVP conversations, and one name that they keep throwing around is Luka. So is Jason Tatum better than Luka?
No. No.
The main argument would be like the two-way shit. I've heard a lot of people
you'd
bring
have
up.
to die on the hill that Luka is a cataclysmically awful, horrid, nightmarish of a bad defender, while Tatum is also literally one of the best in the world, because everything else Luka does, I'm sorry, is just straight up better than Jason Tatum. So you'd have to die on that hill to have an argument. I won't say the argument doesn't exist, because it does, but it's a very dishonest argument. It's kind of like who's better, Drew Holiday or Curry type shit. Now, obviously not to the same level, because Tatum's way better in that comparison.
This might be Damon stuff.
Yeah, something like that, to be honest.
They bring up head-to-head numbers too, because at the head-to-head, like when you roll the ball out there never is like a big gap between the two, especially the last 2 years. But
what, wins wise or
both? I think wins wise and like statistically.
This is one of the things I saw. It's nasty that it's from Celtics.
I hate these graphics.
That's insane.
Oh my God, man. Because it's just about what category you want to put up there. If I turn scoring into step back threes, floaters, runners, all that shit, and it made it to where there's more checks for Luka, then, yeah, man.
Does he have
longevity?
Yeah, I was gonna ask some of these
in
questions.
peak is crazy. I'm not going.
Longevity by 1 year.
Who do y'all think is a better scorer?
Luka.
I think Luka's a better scorer.
Luka's a better scorer.
Luka, but Tatum's more versatile. But
that maybe is the argument. I honestly disagree with that, to be honest. But if he was more versatile, Luka's just like I know he's not as athletic. Luka's way deadlier inside the paint, and then not to mention the shot creation. I think Luka's just better. I think he just clears him. I'm not gonna lie.
Crazy. Shooting.
You know, that used to be.
Go to Tatum.
That used to be no shit Tatum. Now it's pretty close. I'm gonna harp on Jason Tatum because he's proven to be a better shooter more. But hey, don't
He's shooting like 35% on like 9 threes a game. And I
Yeah,
think
no,
Luka this season is shooting like closer to 40 on similar volume. So
Damn.
and he's taking harder shots. So
that white boy is good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Now, if y'all don't think that's a consistent thing for Luka, which fair enough, he's had some seasons where that's not even close. But I would argue, to be honest, that's development.
I think he's great. I think first two for me is Luka. Playmaking.
Luka by a mile.
Luka by to be honest, that should be 2-3 checks.
Yeah.
Luka clears.
Rebounding.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say Tatum won that. I would say Luka.
It's about the same.
I don't know. I could argue Tatum. I mean, Luka is definitely a good rebounder, but I could see the argument for Tatum. I would lean Tatum.
This was the wash for me.
It is very close.
Perimeter defense.
Tatum.
Perimeter, I'd say gun in my head. I'm not going to be a stats guy. I go Tatum.
Man, Luka's defense is definitely underrated.
It's been good. It's been good.
Interior defense.
Tatum, but it's like, why does that matter in a conversation about small forwards? I guess, but yeah.
Especially considering one of them we view as a point guard. I don't know why this is here, but I would go Tatum.
Yeah, Tatum.
Longevity.
Now that I don't know how you argue Tatum.
It is Tatum. I mean,
that's great.
Longer.
Yeah, are we talking like who started their career off better, or are we talking who do we assume is going to have more longevity? To be honest, either way, I might go Luka. I mean, Tatum has more years in the league. I guess he has more iconic playoff moment.
If the question is who's been a superstar for longer, that would actually go towards Luka because he's been a superstar since like 2020, and Tatum wasn't a superstar to me till like 21. So.
I don't know why longevity's here.
The answer is easy, Luka. If we're talking about longevity, we're talking about the former EuroLeague MVP and EuroLeague Finals MVP. Been playing pro ball since he was the age of 15, 16 years old, and dominating competition. Going Luka.
Okay. Peak.
Luka eviscerates.
I'm going Luka.
Luka on his best day is significantly better.
Damn. Yeah, it is. It's Luka.
Okay. And then playoffs?
Barging on my door. Damn.
Playoffs. Luka. Tatum's more proven in the playoffs, but Luka's production in the playoffs.
Man. What does that mean?
He's been in the playoffs more years, and we have a bigger sample size of how successful he can be in deeper runs. But hey, I'm still going Luka, so don't get on my case.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it depends what you care about. Who makes the playoffs more versus who plays better in them. I think in terms of playing better in them, you have minimal argument to not say Luka here, but Tatum does get there and consistently go further. So I guess I'll say Luka's a better performer still. Yeah, I guess I'll say Luka still.
Yeah.
Hold on quick, y'all.
Yeah. So I guess my next question. Wow. Bezos and Damo get this one because I'm in the oven. What does Luka? I know. What does Tatum have to do? What does a player on a good team have to do to supersede? And I think this is a good question because, going forward in the NBA, we are going to see a lot, and I mean a lot of great players put up great numbers, have statistical anomalies. Remember, right now it's probably, and it sounds crazy, but right now is the worst it's going to be going forward. Right? Tomorrow's going to be better, more efficient, more players, better, more efficient. But if you're on a good team, you're not going to get these looks like he's saying. So what does a player like a Tatum in a Tatum situation have to do in order to win an MVP? If there's going to be a guy, and I want to know how it shakes out this year, but like we said, Jokic is putting up crazy numbers. Luka's putting up crazy numbers. SGA is putting up crazy numbers. How does a guy like Tatum get into this conversation?
I think for me, it would be upping his efficiency. Like he can have the same shots that he has right now, but if he's shooting, I don't know, closer to 50% or 53% from the field, if that 35 is closer to 38, if that 80 is closer to 86, if he's already averaging 28 with the efficiency that he's having right now, inherently the numbers are going to go up too, right? So we're looking at a dude, best record in the league averaging 32, 33 points a game on 50, 40, 85 splits. Now the winning gap is gonna have to there has to be a significant gap because every single year Jokic is still gonna put up the 26, 12, and 8. Every single year Giannis is still gonna put up his 30, 13, and 6. Luka's gonna put up his 33, 9, and 7. So the efficiency gap really needs to be there, and the winning gap needs to be there. If he can make a case at the end of the year that he's a two-way player who's giving you 33 a night on great efficiency and winning like crazy, that's an MVP to me. But
I think for me it's super simple. Up his production. That's honestly really it. He just has to have the numbers to match with what the rest of these guys are doing. Unless or the team just has to win on a bigger scale. Not a bigger scale, but increase the gap between the rest of the league. Show all right, if I'm sacrificing these numbers, we are winning tremendously compared to the rest of the league. I'm just not seeing it. That's the one thing that is holding it back for me now from being in that conversation.
Yeah, I'm presuming based on what you guys are saying, it's what would Tatum need to accomplish to win either this one or future ones.
It's on that realm, but what I was saying was that teams, again, what we're seeing now from players and their stats is only going to get better, right? They're going to get more efficient, put up more numbers, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're going to have guys who are going to put up numbers like this on this level, and then you have guys who are going to be on good teams who can't put up that production, but still look like great, dominant players, best players on best teams, how do those guys get into the MVP conversation if over here somebody's putting up 30 points on 70 true shooting percentage while attempting 12, 14, 15 threes a game?
Yeah. It would take, unless, and this is obviously the caveat, I don't know if that's the word. This is obviously a game changer if the narrative behind this award just drastically changes. If the book check nerd ass fans start having a revolution of just fuck the stats, who's winning the most on best team, and or just some America rules shit. So they just start hoeing these Euro guys that are putting up the numbers, and by definition being allowed to win the award. Unless something unforeseen like that happens, I'd say, to be honest, I was going to say what Damo said, but even more strict. I don't think Tatum getting his production up will necessarily matter if he's not having a more productive season than someone else. But if he's winning significantly more, I ain't gonna lie, nobody's doing it, bro. And if for right now, I think he has 5 games on OKC, 6 games on Denver, and about 8 on Dallas. Obviously, it's an extreme exaggeration, everybody. But for example, if the Celtics only had 7 losses at this point, which would put them on an insane pace, I think everybody's just gonna have Tatum there because it's all right, well, you tell this team to lose. So I think that's where it's gonna have to be, because the way that this generation of fans view basketball now, they view who doesn't have help severely. They've always wanted that. The LeBron era has definitely been a pioneer of that. Now it's really a thing okay, but who are you playing with? They're always going to care if you're winning, but not being the most winningest. I think that's where Tatum has fallen short. Not even this year, but in the past couple of years. As Souls mentioned earlier, Tatum averaged 30 last season, and he weren't even top 3. It on many people's list. So yeah, I think it's a matter of that winning gap just has to be that severe, because if someone's more productive than you and they're still winning, I don't think it's gonna matter.
I don't even think it's a winning thing to be. I mean, winning has to be a part of the conversation, but I don't see how Tatum can't put a similar MVP case the way Shai's putting up right now. Shai isn't the dude giving you a 30-point triple double every single night like the 3 other candidates that have been in the conversation the last 3 years. Shai's giving you 30, 6.6, and 5.5. Those are numbers that Tatum is capable of doing. A little less assists, a little bit more rebounds. And Shai, the crazy thing about Shai's efficiency, the crazy thing about Shai's season is the efficiency. So that's why I just point to the efficiency, because if he's taking the same shots and that efficiency, the efficiency just looks better, which I think that's my problem with Tatum's season. He has all this help, all this spacing, yet your efficiency is still this. You should be KD levels of efficiency with this amount of help. If he just ups his efficiency, which is going to up his scoring inherently, I think that's literally all he needs. He already got the winning. Hell, even the narrative push is already on his side. That's all he needs.
Does that cap you out though at like 4? Because I remember when they were having that conversation about Devin Booker, and the amount of help he had on that Phoenix team. They were first in the West. They were winning. They won 64 games, 18 losses that year. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, this guy had a pretty efficient season. 27 points on 47% from the field, 38 from 3 on 7 attempts, 87% from the line. And let me see what his true shooting is real quick. True shooting is where's true shooting? Oh, I see where true shooting is. His true shooting was, what is this? 58% from the field, true shooting. Like
58, 59.
58. So, but what I'm saying is not a terribly inefficient season, pretty efficient season. Dominant winning, right? They won pretty well that year, and he still capped out at being 4 in MVP voting.
My argument would be that season that you're talking about is closer to what Tatum's having this season. That's it. Like that season is closer to Tatum's current season as opposed to the Shea argument that I was bringing up.
Cruz got it on here. Would you rather build a team around Luka or Tatum?
Luka. I'm sorry.
I say Luka. Look. Luka could play literally. I wouldn't say 4, so let me not say play more positions. Actually, I think Luka, you could build your team in multiple ways. I think Tatum, he's pretty much like, he's kind of like how Katie, where name a team where Tatum doesn't fit on, like hard to do, mission impossible. But talent diff. I'm sorry, talent diff.
The Suns.
Here go be so.
Yeah, okay. I mean, y'all build y'all teams how y'all want to build it. I'm gonna build around Tatum. All right.
That's your guy, man.
What's the rationale though?
Primarily because of bias, number 1, and number 2, outside of bias, I just feel like it's just more reliable to build around either big men or wings. Historically speaking, there's a bigger sample size of that working as opposed to essentially a point guard like Luka. So I understand Luka might be one of the exceptions to that rule because of how crazy he is, but I'm just taking a safer route, man. I'm building around the two-way wing who can score like crazy. So
I don't think that applies concerning this nigga 6'8", 6'7", but I hear it.
I was about to say, does that make
yeah? Because like LeBron in 2020, I wouldn't say. You feel me?
When are we gonna get to the point where we're saying like Luka's not actually a point guard? When are we gonna get to that point?
You can talk about it.
Not today.
Okay. Well, take the guy that you picked, and are you building around that guy, or are you building around this guy?
That's a funny one.
Wembert is close to averaging a 5x5. This is over the last 5 games, though. 24, 11.2, 4.8 assists, 5.6 blocks, 2.8 steals. So are you picking the last guy that you chose, or are you picking this guy right there?
This is obviously
Wembert.
Yeah, this is obviously one of the ones. I was on the pod, and I'm not saying that he's necessarily, I ain't gonna lie. Right now, it's kind of, hey man, I was the guy that was 10 toes with Wemby when people were having the Wemby Chet debates, and Chet's still great. But, hey man, it's nice to see Wemby is getting really good really fast. If this is his fucking floor, which everyone is anticipating because it's his rookie season, oh man, we have a conversation. We do. I'm gonna be honest, maybe I am biased here for the first time in this pod. I'm going to slightly say Luka because I just know he's special. I just know it. I literally seen Luka go from an okay 3-point shooter to one of the best considering volume. And he's only bound to get better. He's becoming a better defender already. He's becoming even a more clever passer. So I am very optimistic in taking Luka Doncic, but there's no bad pick here. I'm gonna tell you that. And for anybody that's about to get triggered if someone says Wemby, there's no bad pick.
I'm picking Wemby. In this context, in this situation, easiest player to play around, easiest player to build around. In terms of between these two, is way easier to build a team or multiple variations of a team with a guy like Wemby compared to someone like Luka. You can convince more people to come and play with a guy like Wemby versus a guy like Luka, and the value you're getting defensively, to me, especially because this is Wemby's floor, gaps Luka's value defensively, and the offensive value that Luka gives you is tremendous. Don't get me wrong. Wemby also gives you tremendous offensive value as well. So I'm going Wemby.
As the only guy who picked Tatum, between Tatum and Wemby, I did say two-way wing or a dominant big, and looks like we have a dominant big, so I'm picking Wemby. Chat.
I'm going with the proven guy. I'm going Wemby because
You mean Luka?
I'm going Luka. I'm going Luka because he's the best player I've ever seen. But more importantly, I need to see what Wemby's a sophomore slump looks like. I need to know what that second year looks like when people are actually saying, you know what, we give a fuck. We're gonna care about this guy. We're gonna game plan for this guy. Not saying that is bad. I'm also not saying that he's having a bad season. He's having a good season, great season.
Phenomenal.
Now, what is Shaq? You can't say that? Is that what you can't say? Phenomenal.
That's one of the words. Can't call these two guys phenomenal yet.
Can't say phenomenal. Can't say phenomenal. But I think he's having a great season. I want to know what happens when people game plan for him, because right now it seems like part of let me reiterate, part of what's going on is we don't give a fuck about game planning for them because it's still the Spurs. We're gonna win regardless. He can have whatever numbers he wants. It's not gonna matter. I don't give a fuck. So I'm still going Luka.
Do you don't think that's going to be the same case next season? Because it looks like they're still going to be asked next season.
I think maybe, but at least they'll have seen it before. So right now it's like, okay, we've never seen it before. We don't know what it's looking like. He could do whatever he wants. And we're also not trying to figure it out because, they're the Spurs. Next season, it's like, okay, we've seen it. We can put a little bit more effort into game planning, but at the end of the day, it's still the Spurs. So.
See, I think I'm picking Luka out because he's just that damn good, to be honest. Because even conceptually, while I want to talk about, people aren't scheming for Wemby, same time, I think that includes his own fucking team. This nigga still don't have a point guard. he still don't have a point guard. They still out there just zapping, giving him the ball. So I'm telling you, man, ceiling's high on that, brother. I think this is an easy pick 'em debate. Again, I don't think there should be any disrespect in this comment section. Now we know we got a toxic one, but I honestly want to know, chat. If y'all could do a poll or whatever, go for it. I actually want to know what the popular vote is. If you had to build around somebody, would it be Wemby or Luka? Because this is very close to me.
So to properly build around Luka, you would probably look for defenders and a lob threat big man.
I look for Wemby.
Okay.
I kind of think Dallas is doing the right thing now, except you just want a taller version of Kyrie Irving, to be honest.
Essentially what I'm trying to figure out is like,
how do you build around Luka?
How do you build around both of these two, ideally speaking, and based off of that, like, which is easier to get?
Building around Luka should be easier, to be honest. I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like with Wemby, you have to have a certain level of an all-star guard. With Luka, if you just have fantastic defense, you can have like more. Put it this way: you can have more 80 overalls on a team with Luka than like 80 overalls on a team with Wemby, because you need a point guard that can make the decisions. You need a point guard that can create, put the ball in the basket, run plays with Wemby specifically, all of those things. And you're also going to need the wings that can compensate for the point guard's potential lack of defense. But with Luka, all you ultimately need is guys that can help on the help side defense, and then I'm not phrasing that right, but all you need is guys that can essentially help them on the perimeter, and then you just need like lob threats and athletic bigs. To me, I think what we're seeing right now in Dallas with Gafford and Lively is, hey, bro, I don't need a post touch drop stepper Hall of Fame ass big man. I need a guy that can go up there, swat a shot, and get a board. That's all he needs. So, because he is the creator, but Wemby is depending on a creator, if that makes sense. Not that Wemby can't create, not that Wemby can't create his own shot or for other people, but he's a center. You don't want your center coming down the court having to do that unless you have a motherfucker like Jokic, which I'm sorry, I don't think he'll be ever a playmaker like Jokic. I don't think that's an insult.
I think when it comes to Wemby, I think the exact inverse of Sage. I think it's easier to build around Wemby, because I don't necessarily think you need an all-star level guard to be able to get him the ball. You just need a guard in the game plan that knows get the nigga the ball. You don't even need an extremely good playmaker to play around Wemby. You just need 4 niggas to know throw the nigga the ball. I've seen him turn entry passes to alley-oops from the 3-point line multiple times, not one off in the summer league. I'm talking about that shit happened like a damn near last game. Every other game, he turns entry passes into alley-oops. You don't need Rondo playing with him. You really don't need it. That helps. Having a guard like that helps, and that will help. You can, in my opinion, put a nigga like Chris Dunn back there. Put a guard that's gonna play defense and pass.
I don't think you winning a championship though. I'm talking about winning a championship. I don't think you doing that with a guard like Chris Dunn out there. I think you need someone way better.
One. Y'all are really underrating Chris Dunn's defense, and that's cool.
Oh my
but the point is, you don't need a phenomenal playmaker. You can get you a guy that's schemed to be the defensive stopper, a point attack defender, or whatever it is. As long as the game plan is give Wemby the damn ball and they know how to throw an entry pass, you can get that kind of a guy. You don't need an all-star level guy. In terms of wings, 3-and-D wings, a big that can either, if you're going to put Wemby at the 5, get you a 4 that can get you a small ball 4, which is all around the league. Them shits are a dime a dozen in today's NBA. Or you can put Wemby at the 4 how they did earlier this year and get you a rim running big. Go get you and not saying JaVale McGee, but that S of a player. Go get a Derek Lively. Go find you a Derek Lively. I'm understanding Derek Lively is a good player, but that archetype of big is something definitely you're able to get that. You can draft that. You can go find that. That's easy to come by. But you have multiple things you can do in case of getting a team around Wemby. When it comes to Luka, you need a specific style of team to be able to play with that nigga. Just like for James Harden, any super isocentric or ball-dependent guard, you're going to need a certain type of team around them. You can't really mix and match. It's not easier because there's no variety. You need a guy that's specifically going to do X, Y, and Z, and you need people that can tolerate playing with that play style. Everyone can't play with that. We've seen that in history. Everyone cannot play with a guy that's going to take 30 shots. Some guys just can't do that.
Do you feel as if you believe that only because that's what's been shown?
I mean, yes. I have to say yes.
We got him, Chad. We got him.
Ladies and gentlemen,
he's different, buddy.
He's
different, buddy. I'm sorry to tell you.
What I will say, that's. I mean, I don't know how that got me. But
what I'll also say is my final thing, and it's not a tangent, is I also like taking Luka here because now that I think about it, and I know you could bring up James Harden, I guess, but Luka accomplishes that team that, like, hey, the shortest person on this court is 6'8", ball up. the shortest motherfucker on this court right now is 6'7", 6'8". You try to score the ball, man. And I know people think he's trash. He's not. Just watch him. But hey, defensively, that team be crazy too, depending on who you get. But it's still a conversation. I know someone thinks we're overrating Wemby here. We're talking potential, bro. Potential is through the roof with that nigga.
A couple years ago, I would feel you. Now, I ain't gonna lie, a 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" point guard, them shits damn near becoming not a dime a dozen, but them shits is sprinkled. It's a solid amount of
there's more. I give you that.
Yeah.
Compared to
I wouldn't say a dime a dozen because
I wouldn't say a dime a dozen. That's crazy.
You know.
Yeah, that's crazy. A dime a quarter.
I don't know. I just feel like the pieces you would need to build around Wemby, there's more of that, and they're easier to obtain, as opposed to like with Luka. I personally feel like you're gonna need as much of a dominant big as you can, and it's just harder to come across more dominant bigs than like a Jamal Murray. You know what I'm saying, or a Tyrese Maxey to pair with a Wemby. I don't know.